But for me to report on it, I mean, it does offer me some flexibility, and that's why I do report on it. I don't have to, and I don't have enough subscribers. I have to do anything, but the Court of Public Opinion is a part of the Amateur Radio Network. So we're going to follow some stories on from the Drudge Report, and I found one story from a Wall Street Journal regarding a topic I think that a lot of people should maybe even consider watching, and it's News Media Alliance. This is a trade coalition of 2,000 various publishers, news agencies, which are collectively gathered to support within their trade coalition to I would say that there's a number of things about the advertising rights, and obviously this is directed at Facebook, Google, probably you can include YouTube. And this is kind of what I was hoping to see sometime very soon, because I look at Facebook, AOL, and Google and Twitter as like mainstream news for the internet, more or less. Like, they're the main internet sites that a lot of people frequent on social media. Now, what social media was before and what it's evolved into today, they have obviously they're on the NASDAQ, and now they're officially a trading company. So this actually is something I'd like to watch, because for those of you who want to advertise and try to get ahead of this, I was trying to find a way around this, and I didn't really understand what exactly we were getting ourselves into. But if you're investing as much time into your radio blog or into your news segments, and you're looking to have leverage, and you want to, I would say in this case for me, it's about diversity, because we're doing several different types of programs. We're doing health segments, we're doing news segments, etc. So I would just consider our channel as separate segments. But for a larger corporation, like in this case, these are news agencies, they have more backing, probably a lot more clout. I mean, considering reading it from the Wall Street Journal, I'm just looking at it from that standpoint. But obviously, this is a good sign for the small channel like ours to see what the big guys are doing. Because if it's got to the point where large corporations are gathering together, it's obviously not just the small person here that's getting censored. And I would just watch that. I'm going to put the article below, because you also have to subscribe and sign up to read the Wall Street Journal, which I will plan on doing. There's another story that I wanted to catch up with. It's the Russian story. I didn't really follow it. And I think that the reason that they want to keep the Russia story alive is because they want to keep America stuck. And if we're not moving forward as a country, if we're really going to let this dominate the news channel, which I think that's pretty amazing that the Democrats are capable of doing this. Now, if there was an investigation when Barack Obama was in office and we were doing this, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be in the middle of this mess there. And I'm not just saying liberals, because obviously this is rhinos. I also wanted to post some other stories here in a moment, and I'm going to wait. But there were some other news stories that I wanted to catch up on, and I'm not sure I want to go on about the Russia story, because the way they go after Donald Trump Jr., I'm not surprised that they're going to target another Trump. They have taken shots at every family member. It was Barron last month, or a month and a half ago. And I don't think we're ever really going to get anywhere with the Democrats, and I hope there's a way that they can get around that. That's why I like to watch that story on Google regarding the news agencies, the news media. What was it? News media. Okay. Well, anyway, it's late, and I probably I don't need to repeat myself. But the other story about John Podesta, and I've heard this from people. I just want to make sure, because not speaking to like the average person that follows Pizzagate, because I know there's a lot of people do, but there's still this belief right now that unless they thoroughly investigated the story on Comet Ping Pong, it just went away. It just pretty much disappeared. And if you haven't noticed that, uh, down in Washington, D.C., because I was down there, many people don't even consider that as a real story. So while it may be told that to a lot of people that follow the story, it's fake, there's still this issue where the average person that is in the public eye or the ones that follow mainstream news, they're gonna disassociate themselves from that. And I'm just looking at all these other stories. I recognize that that's probably what's going to be going on because I knew that without really having an ironclad case, it's almost as if it doesn't exist. And that's why I always say this for those of you who follow stories, unless these cases go to court and they can log them or file a suit. But I think that's the whole story about the Seth Rich, which was obviously the anniversary. And but the whole thing is to file a case. And if they can't file a case, that might explain what's going on there. Okay? Because typically, once you have a docket and you have public record of it, then I can say that you can report on it. Otherwise, what I've run into is a lot of this has been thrown on the shoulders of us. I've actually had an internal debate with some people. They'll say, well, why would you follow that story? Why would you follow Alex Jones? I'm here to clarify something. I follow several news channels. I don't have any favorites. I actually go wherever the story is and I try to attach it. But I do watch Alex Jones because honestly, I like their audio and technology. That's the real reason. I mean, you don't have to have this, I don't know, I don't have flippant answers. I just know that sometimes I like listening to certain programs because I like the way they do their broadcasts. And I like to go on Facebook Live and I watch a lot of videos. And I spend a lot of time doing this. And I try to check for the best stories. And I spend hours and hours. But after this, I have to take a break. Because, I mean, I've lost interest in following all this new stuff. But I will follow it. I just know that at the point that I'm at, I like doing just random reports like this, okay? I don't want to be held to anything here. I noticed one thing about Facebook and social media. To me, they are like the mainstream channels on the internet at this point. And we need an alternative. And what I see happen in mainstream news is happening with social media. Eventually, what you're seeing is people are branching out and they're finding other networks. And, you know, it's almost as if you get burned out for a while. So this is a good opportunity. If you're burned out, I'm not going to be announcing when we're going to take time off. I'm just not going to do it. You know, the one thing is we're not babysitting anybody and we're not holding each other's hands. And I would appreciate that. All of us can come and go as we free to. But I don't hold anyone into a routine. We don't have enough subscribers and we're not making enough money to make this our primary concern. But I did want to follow up on these stories, and I'm going to follow some other ones. But overall, I just want to make sure that I clarified that some of the things that are going on social media, it'll be interesting to watch that if the news media agencies do pursue this with Congress, and that will make a difference for a channel like ours, who's very small. Listen, if the bigger companies are saying, you know, they want a piece of the market share and they want to be able to have a little bit more liquidity as far as like flexibility, I'd like to see that too as just an independent radio person, okay, on YouTube. Other things, like I said, you know, I just want to make sure we're clear about that because I know a lot of people still believe that the story is not real. It's not a matter whether the story is real about Comet Ping Pong. It's whether the people believe it's real, okay? And I've had that internal debate, and I really can't say anything until I know. I mean, it's irresponsible without seeing anything going forward to say anything, because that's the kind of channel we have. I can't do that for a couple reasons, and I have to qualify the information. I personally think it happened, okay? But professionally, I can't do that. I can't go there yet, okay? And a lot of people might have an issue with that, but that's just the way it is. Because legally, you can't really make a case until you actually go to court. The problem is, I guess that takes you to what's going on with Seth Rich. And that's the whole issue with the case regarding Seth Rich. And I find it ironic. But these are kind of stories we've been following. And I don't know. I don't think America can go forward with that story being regurgitated over and over again. And I'm pretty sure most of you who follow news or have been, where it's going to get to the point, I think they're purposely getting people to the point where they don't want to follow news. And you could see it's kind of going dark. So I would say this, that's when I know it's a good time to take a vacation, because at this point, I know if something does happen or a weather event happens, which we also noticed that there was an increase of earthquakes, a swarm of earthquakes. I mean, these are things you should watch, not because the news says, but because you want to. Like, the real things that most of us really need to care about right now is that things that really pertain to your region, to your local community, and, otherwise, because I know our community and our local government and some of the things, we have an election coming up. And this is the time to pay attention to what's going on locally. Now, you also heard that Paul Ryan said that there will be no more town halls. This is why, again, we want to follow the election in our area. I would look at it this way. I'm not going to follow the national news as much as I want to know what's going on locally, because these things actually affect us directly. And a lot of people need to know this. But here in our area, we don't even have somebody that's, independent or representing our region, or even this. Yeah, they're not representing here. So I like to know that kind of stuff, because that actually affects us directly. When something's going on in your community and you're not paying attention, I mean, that's why they always fill the void. I mean, it was just like what happened in Iraq. It's like as soon as you pour our soldiers out, they filled the vacuum. So we're going to have to pay attention to what that looks like in regarding other topics. I mean, just because it's not happening in Iraq doesn't mean it's not going to happen politically in our local community, or it's not going to happen, because I see this Russia story as a way to create this gap, and it's only creating this stagnation. We cannot make progress this way. And obviously they wouldn't be bringing it up so they can keep America stuck. And instead of making America great again, let's make America unstuck again. This is the problem what we're going to keep running into. I don't want to participate in news at all. At this point, what I see happening is it's not even necessary for us to even do this. I mean, I do it because I want to engage with friends and people, and I want to keep up with it. But that's the only reason. It's not for any other reason. I mean, we're not going to make a profit doing this until they make changes at the level of government and the FCC. And I think what is happening is you're going to start seeing these changes at some point. It's going to regulate itself. And when you see an article at the Wall Street Journal regarding regulations and things like that, it looks to me like it could turn that direction. But for those people that have been censored, this is a story you want to watch, and I'll put that link below. And it's regarding this story from the Wall Street Journal. The Court of Public Opinion is a part of the Amateur Radio Network.